Well, welcome back to our class, Helping Teens Find Success. I hope that you all have been finding this helpful. I hope that something has stuck with you. I would like to pray for us and then we'll get started. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift that you've given us in our kids, in our grandkids, in our neighbors' kids, in the kids in this church, all the children who we speak into their lives and we love them well and we desire for them to know you. Father, would you be with us today as we take more steps towards being better parents, being better role models for our children. We praise you and we thank you for the gift of Jesus, and it's in his name we pray. Great, so surveys like this are normally handed out like at the end for like self-reflection, for me, for whoever's teaching, but I think that we're about halfway through, and I think this is actually a better time for me and for you, for us to do this. So what I'm hopeful is that you will be very honest, anonymously honest, and that you will really give us some feedback, because Michael will be here next week. We're going to talk a little bit about, more specifically, how Stonehill can come alongside and help with the success that we're looking for. And then he's going to answer maybe some harder questions that have come in through the parent question box that I feel like a pastor should answer. But what I'm hopeful is that you'll say to me, hey, I really hoped you had said something about this, and then I can. As opposed to after the last class saying, hey, I really wish you had said something, and then I'm like, well, it's too late now. So we do have plans for what the last two, I guess after today there's 2 more classes. So we do have plans for some general ideas for those classes, but they're also still flexible enough that we can move things around and add some, I leave space every week for questions that pop up during the week that just feel organic to answer. So, if you've been here even once before, I would love it if you would we're gonna take a few minutes now to fill out these surveys, and then I have some questions for you that I'm hoping you'll answer. But first, after we do the survey, Francis is gonna share a little bit about our library with you. So, survey, Francis, questions, go. Also, make sure you checked your name off the list if you're here. Thanks. Fill out the questions that apply to you. So if there's something you want to hear about, I may not have talked about it yet, so feel free to jot it down. That'll help me as well. librarian. She's a Patriots fan, so I apologize in advance for that.
I know what it feels like to be a Jets fan now.
But yes, she understands the Jets fans in the room a little bit more today. Frances has done a great job of curating a variety of books, not just for the whole library, but she does a really great job of seeking out books for specific things. So if you've walked past the library in the last couple of years, you'll notice that the books in the window are changing constantly because she's keeping up with what's going on in the world, what's going on in our church, and pulling out the books that she thinks will sort of speak to those things, most specifically to make it easier for you to just come in, sign out the book, and walk out and not have to search through hundreds of books on the shelves. So Frances brought us a bunch of books today that are parenting / teen / life related that she's going to talk a little bit about, and then there'll be time for you to check them out after class.
And do I need the microphone?
Absolutely.
Can everybody
Because
hear?
we're recording, so I need you to use
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Is it on? Becca?
It is on.
It is?
It's been on. You got to hold it up to your. It's good.
It was it.
It's on. It says it's on back here. Try again. The volume was off.
Okay, so I started working in the library here, I think it was right after COVID, and there were adult Sunday school classes being held in the library. And I worked in the library, when I was in 6th grade, I worked in my school library. And then I worked in a K-3 library, and I worked in a high school library. So I kind of know my way around the Dewey Decimal System. And I would be sitting there in my Sunday school class. I can't tell you who taught or what it was about, because I just looked at the shelves and I was like, oh, this room needs help. So I went and I asked, does anybody take care of the library? And no, not that we know of, no. I said, do you mind if I dust the shelves and rearrange things? Let's see, 3 years ago, I applied for a budget for the library, and it was approved. And so I've been buying books. We put in the children's library down in the children's wing. And we have, there was a library up in the youth room, but the youth never used it. So I moved it a few weeks ago down to the adult library down here. And when you walk in the door, if you walk straight ahead, you're going to hit the youth and parenting shelves in the library. So we have books on here. We have devotionals to do with your children. We have devotionals for them to do on their own as teens. There were books about girls, like what problems they may encounter in high school / college. There's books about kids getting ready to go to college. There were books about, and even my own grandchildren don't take the books out, so I'm not limiting it. I've got a student's guide to anxiety, a student's guide to politics, a student's guide to navigating culture. There's just a wide range of subjects and topics for parenting from little up to, I'll say, going to college. And all you have to do is sign the card on the back of the book, put it in the slot, and there's no time limit on how, so you can keep the book 2, 3, 4 weeks and then return it, and just put it in the basket on the bottom shelf, and it's returned. So if you have any questions, you can come and ask me. If you know of a book that you would like me to order, I can do that. I have one copy of the 6 questions. Was that book group that met?
Yes, 6 conversations.
Oh, 6 conversations. I have 1 copy left if anybody wants that today. Okay, and back to you, Becca.
Thank you, Frances. You can just leave that on, it's fine. All right, so I brought a few books today that I have read and highly recommend for specific things. Well, some are specific, some are general. So we've talked a lot about Sticky Faith. I won't go there again. This is another great book by the same author, Kara Powell. 3 big questions that change every teenager. We talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago. This sort of breaks it down into the who am I? where do I belong, and what's my purpose? That these are the questions that in different paraphrases, every teenager from, I mean, even as young as like 4th and 5th grade. I mean, somebody told me once when my kid was, my twins were in like 1st grade, they said, oh, girls in 3rd grade are the worst. And I was like, what? No, that can't possibly be. And then 3rd grade was the worst. I should have seen it coming and I didn't, and it was awful. Not to say that middle school and high school were fine, I'm just saying it wasn't great. If I had understood that, if I really understood what was coming, I might have been better prepared. I highly recommend this book. Same author, same easy read, like great language that she uses. I read this book in my master's program. Jackie Carey, she's a licensed counselor. This book is called Heart Cries of Every Teen, 8 Core Desires That Demand Attention. So I'll read you some of the heart cries that she calls, as she calls them. Hear me, notice me, affirm me, befriend me, allow me, touch me, protect me, remember me. We could spend a whole year on this book. This was a great, great book. And it's the kind of thing, you kind of do have to read it from beginning to end because each of these statements kind of build on each other. But if you felt like there was just a chapter you wanted to dive in and be like, oh, I feel like I'm hearing my kids say that they need to be befriended. What does she mean by that? This is a great book. The Whole Brain Child, even if you have littles still at home, you could not read a better book right now. This is not a Christian author, like Christian parenting book. However, this is a great, great book just to help you understand that your kids are more than just their behaviors. Your kids are more than just learning their ABCs. Whole brain, but like whole person. Really, yeah, I think it's a great book. I know Lindsay has talked about this book in her other parenting classes, so highly recommend. I think we probably have this in I don't know if we have this in the church library because it's not officially a Christian parenting book. But this one belongs to Lindsay, I think. Well, this might have come off my shelf. We all have the same books anymore, so I'll take it home and see if I have another one on my shelf. I highly recommend it. This one is specifically for moms and daughters. However, if you are a dad who is raising a daughter that you don't understand, this wouldn't be a bad book to pick up. Hillary McBride is, she's a Christian. She is a PhD, I believe. She's a doctor now. I don't know if she was a doctor when she wrote this book. She's a PhD doctor. A lot of moms get a lot of bad messages about their bodies. A lot of women get a lot of bad messages about their bodies. We're told that they're broken, that they need to be covered. They are a temptation for other people, and therefore we are basically just walking sin. And I know Tracy's sermon today basically was that we are all walking sin, but women get a message that their bodies are inherently bad. And what ends up happening is we develop narrations in our head that we then teach our kids. That our bodies we can't trust them, we need to control them, we need all of these just really negative messages. And so what she did was she interviewed a ton of moms and daughters and talked to them about their understanding of their bodies and found that a lot of teenage girls, present time, were working through negative messages that they got from their moms without even realizing they had gotten these negative messages. And the moms were realizing that they were teaching negative messages they didn't realize they had in their brains. So I highly recommend this. Hillary McBride, like I said, she's a Christian. She does mention God in here, but it's not like here's how you pray to Jesus to fix this problem kind of book. It is how do we examine our own lives and our own hearts to better equip our kids to be healthy parts of society. So like I said, if you have girls, I highly recommend it. Listen, if you are the mom of a boy, that you are praying that he will find a healthy, strong, godly woman to spend his life with, you also need to understand women because you can't understand how to pray for, even if you are a woman, you can't understand how to pray for a spouse for your child if you don't understand that spouse. Does that make sense? Yeah.
What was it called?
It's called Mothers, Daughters, and Body Image, Learning to Love Ourselves as We Are. And I think our society does a much better job today than it did in like the 70s and 80s in talking about body image, but we still have a long way to go. And if you have a teenage boy right now, you may be finding him following a lot of gym bros and protein eaters on the internet, and those can be just as damaging. And then last, this is more of a book designed for church ministry, but all of those charts and graphs and like pretty things I photocopied for you came out of this book called It's Just a Phase, So Don't Miss It by Reggie Joiner and Kristen Ivy. It's huge, it's very heavy, but it's full of pretty pictures, and if you don't like to read lots of text and you need pictures to break up your text, it's a great book. I highly recommend. I'll have these up here. Maybe I'll put them on this table if you want to look at them. These belong to staff, so I can't loan these out to you. But if we want to get them for the church library, just holler and we can do that. Okay, so last week we talked about our kids' spiritual gifts and what do we do with, how do we get them to serve? What do we do with what we've learned about their spiritual gifts? And so I would love to hear from some of you. I do know that some of you, your kids threw out their spiritual gift surveys directly after finishing them in Sunday school. And I gave a bunch of them a hard time. I was like, well, I'm gonna send your mom another copy so you can do it again. But I would love to hear if some of you did talk to your kids about it. Were there any insights? Did you have any aha moments? Were there conversations that didn't go well as a result? Let's talk about that. Any brave souls?
I'm sorry, I did attempt, but Lauren was like, I didn't finish it, Grace unless that.
Okay, well, I'll send you some more.
I actually made him go get it out of the trash can.
Made him go get it out of the trash can. Did you talk about it?
We did a little bit.
Can you just get some?
I was just going to say that I found it surprising, actually. What he ranked highest in was actually very surprising that both my kids and myself, because I took one and did it as well, ranked very high in some similar ones. And actually the Showing Mercy was very high on all three of ours. And then he actually also had, I believe it was teaching on there, which actually surprised me as a high one, and exercising faith. So it was all things that I guess I wouldn't necessarily have done that, but I would like to sort of understand it better and like how to help guide him in those directions.
Yeah, well, that's great. I love that there's a commonality between the three of you, because that's a way that you can then harness that and say, okay, let's find something we can do that serves our mercy gift, right, together. And it may be something like going to the nursing home once a month, and just singing hymns with them or something. Yeah, that's really great. I feel like I've seen eyes that want to talk but are afraid to raise their hand. All right, just hold the microphone up close.
So he did not have the paper, and luckily we had 2 copies, and so we got it. We didn't have a presumption in terms of like what, so we were just very curious in terms of like how he was assessing it and what came to be. So it was actually just very eye-opening and touching for us. His top 2 came out to be encouraging and then exercising faith. And so I think it just gave us a lens of like, how do we help him continue to cultivate that and think through ways that he can apply it. So I think we need to continue having more discussions. But I think for us, it was just very, for lack of a better word, just touching to know that and to have the awareness.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think too, I think we don't spend enough time as adults talking about our own spiritual gifts. We don't necessarily even know. We're just like, gotta get to church, gotta get to Sunday school, gotta get home, gotta get the groceries, gotta get ready for the Monday. And then we forget about it Monday through Friday, and then it's like the Saturday and you're exhausted and you've got soccer practice and you've gotta make meals and you know, all the things. So I understand. Jules.
So I did make copies for both Natalie and Clara, so they did it. And Natalie gave me such a hard time about doing it again. She was like not interested at all. But I said, well, you know, what did you come back with? And she's exactly like her dad, no surprise at all. But it's pretty funny because then Clara came back exactly like me, also no surprise. But it was pretty funny to see like how they like Natalie was not interested and didn't care, you know, but she serves. And one of her highest scores was exercising faith, which, you know, I thought that was pretty significant to come from her. And Clara came back as like, you know, mercy and encouragement and all of that, which is no surprise. But she was much more interested in doing it and like really wanted to like take that and use it. So I guess, and I will say like there's one about I think stewardship or something along those lines, and like they were kind of like, well, we don't have our own money, so we can't really answer these questions because we don't really like, we don't do that. Like you give to the church, and you know, so they kind of felt like, well, that didn't really apply too much. But I don't know. I think now it's, I guess at the next point, how do we now take this and find ways to use those gifts? And that's where we're starting to like, okay, let's think about this a little bit more and trying to get them to like, yes, Natalie serves. She does sing, yes. But she has other gifts too, and you know, leadership and management are two of her gifts, and I'd like to see her find ways to use that and, you know, serve the church and serve others in that capacity.
That's really great. Yeah, I think stewardship is a hard one, I think, especially for a middle schooler, because yeah, what do I have to steward? Well, we actually have more to steward than we realize from a young age. I mean, you know, if you follow those like, I remember there was a craft that we learned about doing with our kids in some seminar once, and it was like, you know, you take 3 milk cartons and you like paste them together, and one is the home, and one is the church, and one is the bank, and you decorate them, and then you use them as like a piggy bank, and you teach your kids to put like 10% in the church bucket, and then, you know, 20% in the home, in the bank bucket, and then the rest, like, you know, when they get their Christmas money or their allowance or whatever. And that works if you remember to do it. But I also don't think that it necessarily always works that way, right? Like, my kids were like, well, why does all of my gift from my grandma for Christmas, if she bought me a sweater, I wouldn't put 10% of the sweater in the church. So why, if she gives me money to go spend at the store, do I have to put, you know, 10% in the church bucket at Christmas? And that got me to thinking about how, you know, how are we communicating what gifts are versus what payment is, and how do we talk about what tithing means? And so I would say that that's a great opportunity to talk with your kids about what it means to steward your gifts. Because I don't think stewardship is just about money. We had friends many, many years ago who dad was working for a small, very, very small company that could not pay their employees for like 6 months. They didn't lay anybody off, nobody quit, just nobody got paid. And it was a really hard time for them. And they applied for all kinds of public assistance, and they were receiving it. But the wife was feeling really burdened because they had nothing to tithe, like a check on a Sunday morning in the offer. And so what she did was she prayed about it, and for her the answer was tithe your time. What you have right now is time. That is the only thing you can sacrifice, right? Because tithing is really about sacrificing the thing that God has given you. So if God has given you time to do things, give 10% of that time to something at your church. And so she did, and it really did it met the need in her to serve well, and it also helped them to feel a sense of we haven't just given up on our commitment to our church, right? We're doing what we can with what we have. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to say to our kids, at some point you will have an income, and you will be asked, compelled, obligated, whatever the word is you choose to use, to tithe to your church or to an organization that, a Christian organization. And why do mom and dad do it? What leads us to tithe 20%, 30%, if you're lucky enough, more than that, right? What leads you to that number? And then how do you, what is sort of the soul conviction behind it? because we shouldn't be doing it out of a sense of like checking a box, right? It's not just, I write the check every week and I drop it in the box and it's done. It should be with a sacrificial heart, a thoughtful, like, we're making an offering to God. We're not just like, this isn't paying for your groceries, this is bringing your tithe to the altar. And we can teach our kids what to do with that, absolutely. I'm hoping, I know there's a few parents here whose kids do serve pretty regularly in ministry. And I'm wondering if you all could speak to the, like, what you're seeing, fruit that's growing from your kids out of that ministry that they're doing, even if you are like, I have no idea how this connects to a spiritual gift, or my kid didn't take the survey, or my kid took the survey and was like, this is absolutely wrong, I don't know, this survey is broken. And I don't want to point to anybody, but I was hoping that one of you might be willing to share. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share reality stuff. My kiddo, we had over the past year or two, it's the grumbles, and I don't want to wake up early, and I don't want to come to church, and even now that she's got her license, can I drive myself because you have to be here like half an hour earlier than I really have to, and that half an hour matters. So lots of grumbles, lots of resistance. When she goes to Sunday school, what does she talk about? I don't know. So there's where you are baseline. But she does serve once a month in the preschool room during services, or the toddlers, I guess. And so those Sundays, it's not a fight. Part of it is that she does have a good sense of responsibility, and she knows that she needs to be there. But like, that's our one Sunday a month. We're not going to fight over getting here. And afterwards, she's really excited to tell me the stories about what happened. And sometimes it's just funny things that happen, but it's a level of engagement that sometimes we have to fight to get otherwise. So we have seen that as being a really positive thing. And that's where her heart is. She really loves, working with kids, and so that's just made a connection for her. And I just know that even from my own life, sometimes doing those jobs in the church, that's what keeps you in the door, coming in the door sometimes when other things are trying to pull you away from it. So that's been our positive experience.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And I do watch your daughter be excited on those Sunday mornings. She comes bounding back into the sanctuary at the end of the service, and she's very chatty. So I believe that story 100%. Anyone else whose kids? Miss Jules again. No, don't apologize.
Okay, so full disclosure, Natalie was never asked to join choir or worship team. She wanted to do it on her own, which surprised us, and we're like, sure, why not? And actually, joining worship team was a surprise for her dad. And then she just loved it and stuck with it, which is great. But I think one of the things that I see in her is having that intergenerational experience, right? Seeing people from all different walks of life as her church family, and people she knows now as part of, we go to this hour-and-a-half long practice every week, and she actually enjoys that and looks forward to it and doesn't complain about it, which is a big thing for her. I think it's really, special to have that time with people that she, I guess, wouldn't normally have talked to, right? And just get to know them and be part of something that we're in this together, and we're serving the church together, and seeing that, I think, it's really special for her. And being up there with her dad, it's really special too. And we've had a lot of people come up to us and say oh, it's so nice to see you singing with your dad, or something, and I think that makes her feel really like she's doing something positive that other people are recognizing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we've been in middle school youth group, we've been teaching recently about belonging, right? Those 3 questions is what we've covered this year, and we're deep into belonging. And this week we talked about what it means to be a member of the body, and that this idea that our bodies sort of mimic the way that God sees all the people in the church, and that no body part is any less important than another, but also that if we were all the same body part, we'd just be like one big nose, like it would, or lots of noses stuck together, like it would be weird and it wouldn't make sense. And that we're not supposed to all be the same. But like all the fingers are together because they work better when they're together, right? Your eyes are next to each other because they need each other, right? There are animals, the eyes are on the side of the head. I don't understand how that works. And so this idea that like each of us in all of our different, the thumb was given a different job than the pinky, but they both matter. And the kids really had a great, they got some really great examples from Miguel on Friday night, like how to look at yourself as an equal in the body. And so when we can get our kids, our middle schoolers, even younger, to do things alongside adults, they begin to understand more quickly that they're not less than, they're not just like add-ons to the Sunday morning routine. There is an eldest child in a family in this church that I promised I would not name, but I told him I was going to tell the story. Since he was really little, he has wanted to help in the kitchen. Like on a Sunday morning, he's wanted to help cut the bagels and put out the cream cheese and make the coffee. He barely reached the countertop in there, but he really wanted to serve. And so, but he wasn't 12. You have to be 12 to serve in the kitchen because it's a state health requirement. So what he worked out with the person who was running the cafe at the time was that he would come to the kitchen door out there in the atrium and he would knock and they would bring him things and he would take them out. So they'd bring him a big bowl of bagels and he's like, half the size of this bowl and he's walking across the atrium very carefully and setting it on the counter. And the joy and the validation that this kid received at the age of 8, 9, 10 by this just random person handing him a bowl of bagels was, you could see it as he walked across the atrium. The smile was huge, and now he has confidence to say, because he's now 12, to say to me, do I get to serve at camp this summer? And I said, you have to serve at camp this summer. There's nothing else for you because you're too old. And he's so excited, but he walked straight up to me and just had the confidence and the courage to ask me about it. He didn't wait for his mom to do it. He didn't just sit back and wait to be asked. He knew that he had a sort of an equal footing in service with me and understands that I see myself as the same as all the crew leaders at camp and that he can ask me about that. And that is what we want for all of our kids, right? We want them to be able to walk into a space and not feel like they should sit quiet in a corner while the grown-ups talk. That they can walk themselves into a space and say, how can I help? That they can see that something needs to be done and just do it as opposed to waiting to be told to do it. And I'm gonna guess that most of your homes work this way. Why didn't you empty the dishwasher? Oh, you didn't tell me I should. Really, you've eaten off the clean dishes from that dishwasher all day long, but you didn't think that 5 minutes of your time to empty it? Oh, well, you didn't ask me to. And this is a problem we fall in our house all the time, is our kids have learned to wait till they're asked to do something at home. At church, nope, they will do all the things before you ask them to do it. At home, it's a completely different set of rules, right? And so how do we translate that to both, in special we call that generalizing skills, right? We teach them skills that they then can do in both places. And so giving them some ownership and some leadership here, but alongside you, means that hopefully when you get home and they're alongside you, they'll take some ownership and leadership of some skills. We have an adult kid living at home right now because he graduated college and the job market is terrible and nobody can afford to live anywhere besides their parents' basements and garages. And he wants to do things. He just has no confidence in his. He's like, I want to learn to cook dinner, but then he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, I can show you. He's like, slow down, one thing at a time, right? But you set him loose in a church, and some of you who know my kid, you know that he does not need any instructions, he does not need any permission. He walks into a room, he's got it under control, and he has everyone's captivated attention. And he could, listen, in an apocalypse, you want want him in charge. He will get everyone organized and ready to go, and then he will go hide. But I think that that's what we want for our kids, is for them to walk in on a Sunday morning willingly, maybe not joyfully, but willingly, because I don't think we all show up joyfully every week, willingly, and to believe that they belong here and there's a place for them here, because at some point they will, hopefully, Lord willing, move out of our homes. They will explore other churches when they go to college or when they move for a job, and we want them to know how to look for a church. We want them to feel confident to put their hand up and ask to serve in another church. We want them to know when to walk away from another church that turns out to not be a good fit, right? But we want them to find a home, to be able to figure out that they are a part of that body when they get there. And it starts by teaching them here. And so I want to do a little exercise with you. If you don't have extra paper, because I actually need to take these surveys back from you. I see lots of you writing lots of things, and that's wonderful. And if you need a new one, I promise I can make more copies. If you don't have extra paper, maybe just get out your notes app. And I want to try a little exercise with you. We used to do this in our counseling classes in the seminary. And it was a way for us to be praying for our clients. Not all of us were working in Christian organizations, counseling organizations, but all of us could pray for our clients. And so I want to try this exercise praying for our kids today. So we're going to take the Lord's Prayer, which is, when Jesus says, when you want to pray, this is how you should pray. And I believe that it's what Jesus is telling us is not necessarily that we should pray these exact words in this exact order every single time, because I think sometimes when we repeat the same prayer over and over again, we lose the meaning of the prayer. But we're going to take each phrase, and I would love for you to write out sort of your own version of that phrase to meet your kids in that place. So, when we get to forgive us our trespasses. Lord, forgive me when I lost my temper with my daughter last week, and I yelled, and we hung up on each other, and it was ugly, right? So, does everybody have something to write with? I'm going to read through. I have this open, and now it's not open anymore. Matthew, not Mark, Matthew. Right? Matthew. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. Yep, Matthew 6. Okay. I'm going to read it from the ESV. I have it memorized from my days in Catholic Church, but I'm going to read it from here. And I'm going to pause after each phrase and give you a chance to just kind of think about it and work through how you would like to phrase it for your kids. And then I want to encourage you to pray through this throughout the week. And then regularly, maybe rewrite it. As your kids grow, as circumstances change, as they grow, as they change, to give you an opportunity to really use this prayer as a vehicle to reflect on your time with your kids. So, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts. As we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The greatest gift that we all have is to pray for our kids, I think. As parents, there's nothing else we can give them more powerful than our prayers. Especially if we model it to them. I think it's a great opportunity for us to. I would be hard pressed. I've asked a lot of teenagers recently and who are in college, and none of them have said that their parents prayed too much. That's not to say that their parents didn't pray a lot, but I don't know that any of them felt like they wish their parents had stopped praying at any point or had prayed less. So I just want to encourage you as we wrap up today. I am going to pray again for us, but I think this is a great opportunity for you to, just an exercise to use to practice prayer in a slightly organized but also very personalized way. It's a great way, it's a great tool to use with your kids too, if they're struggling through something and they feel like they don't know how to pray. Get them to sit down and, show them how to do this. Like, how would you talk to God in this way? Would you say, "Our Father in heaven"? Or would you just say, "Dear God"? That's fine too. What do you know about Him? Dear God, who always protects me. Great. Let's start there. Right? I'm going to close with some prayer, and then if you guys wouldn't mind leaving your completed surveys on the piano for me, and then if you have any questions, I'll be around for a little bit. Dallas Willard, who is a great theologian, a great thinker, a great writer, he actually has a relatively well-known version of the Lord's Prayer that he rewrote that I love very much. So I thought I would close with that for us, and then I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. Come back for lunch later. Let's pray. Dear Father, always near us, may your name be treasured and loved. May your rule be completed in us. May your will be done here on earth in just the way it is done in heaven. Give us today the things we need today. And forgive us our sins and impositions on you, as we are forgiving all who in any way offend us. Please don't put us through trials, but deliver us from everything bad. Because you are the one in charge, and you have all the power, and the glory too is all yours forever, which is just the way we want it. Amen. Thank you, and I'll be around for a little bit.